Hey, it is Zenio Gamer, and we're back with another RTA video today. Before I jump into the video, just a quick announcement. I will be streaming Arena Rush Hour this Sunday at 9 p.m. server time. I actually streamed last week with no announcement, so it's a long shot. I wouldn't call it a legend Rush Hour. Obviously, we're going to try for it next week, but we're going to try for G3, have a little bit of fun. So if you want to join the stream, my Twitch information is in the description down below. And I'm going to be trying to stream Rush Hour every week, at least through so long as we're in this pandemic, and week by week you can watch my hair grow longer. With that announcement made, we're going to jump into the RTA video. So this week we're going to be doing something similar to the last RTA video I did, but we're going to be looking at the Pick Ban stage. And so I'm going to be starting off by demonstrating a couple of fights between myself and one of my guildies, Perk. Now it shows up here Perk is C1, Perk is not C1. He was just getting started for the season, and he was testing out a new comp, but honestly, Perk is much stronger than I am. I want to talk about how we adjust to our picks when we know what the opponent's monsters are, when we know what the opponent is trying to do. So this could be because it's somebody that you face on a regular basis. If you tend to stay around the same level in RTA, if you're at a fighter league, if you're in Conqueror or above, you're probably seeing the same person somewhat often. The more RTA you do, the more you see them. So after a while, you start to know what they're doing that's beating you. Is it because they have monsters that are faster? Is it because they have a comp that counters yours? That type of thing. So how do we adjust to that so that we can try to beat them? The other thing is maybe you don't know a lot about the person, but you can read what they're trying to do through the comp. And so how do you adjust to that as well? Now, in this case, I knew a little bit about Perk, obviously, since he's a guildie, and the first thing I know is that his Lauren is ridiculous. His Violent Lauren is faster than my fastest Swift monster. So when I drew first pick, I obviously had to pull Lauren, or it was going to be a forced ban for me. And he came out over here with the Hyenas and the Triton. And so knowing how fast Perk is, I can assume both of those monsters are faster than anything I have. But obviously the Triton, no matter who's playing it, if they're playing a Triton in RTA, they're going to be faster than me. So I come back with the Vanessa and the Masha. Now the Vanessa is obviously my 33 speed lead. It's also my resurrect option. But more importantly, the Vanessa is attribute advantage against the Triton. So we're only at the very beginning of the fight here. I haven't seen his whole comp, but at this stage, I want the option to ban one of his strippers and put his other one at a disadvantage. By bringing out two fire monsters, each fire monster Triton has a 50% chance to glance on. And if he glances, then he's not going to strip or reduce the attack bar. So it makes it that much harder for him to get early control of me. So at this stage, I have the option to ban his Hyenas. I have the possibility of outspeeding him if he only brings one speed lead, and I can ban that and convince him through my picks to leave my Vanessa in. So it leaves a lot of doors open. Now he comes back with the Ashubal and the Izaria. The Izaria here in particular is a really tough pick for me because it's a tremendous amount of control. Now he's got two speed leads. Ashubal's 19%, Izaria's 24%. And the Izaria is just going to do a lot of damage to the fire monsters that I've brought. So at this point, the Izaria becomes the monster I have to lean towards banning. And if I'm leaving Triton in, then I need to have even more fire. So we bring the Oki. I'm also, again, assuming I'm banning the Izaria, I'm also planning to, or expecting to be controlled by that Ashubal. So I need to bring in some form of immunity. Now, Ashubal is similar to Hathor, if you're familiar with it, with the AoE sleep, but instead of reducing everybody's attack bar like Hathor does, Ashubal blocks beneficial effects. And so bringing in Fran, which is my better runed monster here, doesn't make a lot of sense because I know he's going to outspeed and strip me. So even if my Fran somehow manages to resist, she can't put up immunity because everybody's beneficial effects are blocked. She doesn't have an AoE cleanse. All she can do is cleanse one monster, so she doesn't make as much sense here. Now, he finishes off with a Daphnis, and this is my oh shit moment. I'm like, oh, that Daphnis is going to hit really hard. And it threw me for a loop. I wasn't expecting to see the Daphnis. I don't know why. Maybe I should have been, but it just threw me for a loop because it was our first fight together. And I panicked, and I banned the Triton. I just thought, okay, I better ban his fastest monster. I'm hoping he bans my Amelia, even though I wouldn't expect him to, but I'm hoping he bans my Amelia. And I'm thinking, if I have Vanessa plus Oki, so I have a 33 speed lead in my fastest monster, maybe I can get ahead of his 24 speed lead plus the Hyenas. And so we banned the Triton, even though we built our whole team to counter the Triton. That's what you call a panic ban. It was a terrible play on my part. And here is the result. Now, I'm not going to be analyzing these fights play by play like I did in the last video, and I will do that again in some future videos. Today we're talking about pick ban, but I will go ahead and show out the fights just so you can see how they went. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward through this fight from here, and I'll be back at the next pick ban phase. Okay, so as you can see, Perk won pretty easily. It really wasn't as close even as it looks like from this screenshot. His team did not have a lot of damage, and I did bring some, even though I had more damage dealers, they were tankier build monsters. So it took him a little while to finish me off, but he had so much control over there that he was really never at risk. As damage escalated and his control monsters began to hit harder, he would have finished me off that much quicker. And this was, again, largely in part because at least in part because I panic banned the Triton. So we went ahead and replayed the same fight again. Now, this wasn't something that we agreed on. It was just basically we came through and we redid our draft. I happened to get first pick again, so I grabbed the Lauren for the same reasons I mentioned. He brought the same monsters, so I did, and basically he had just won the match, so it made sense for him to continue drafting because I didn't draft anything different, and I continued to draft because I wanted to see how this would go if I banned the Izaria, which was my original plan. So right here you can see that he did get the glancing hits on the Masha and the Oki. Now he did manage to still actually strip off the will runes, but he didn't manage to reduce the attack bars down through there, which gave me a chance. Now the Hyenas still wound up, not the Hyenas, the Hyenas still wound up being faster than me, and then she was able to reduce my attack bar further. But I did accomplish what I had been trying to accomplish. Now here's where one of the monsters I don't have built is a much better counter to Triton, which is Verd. I don't have Verd built for RTA right now, but Verd in a counter, like a triple counter or double counter will build, or even just, I'm saying counter, I mean revenge, obviously, or even just violent revenge. Verd in violent revenge is a brutal counter to Triton because if he gets the glancing hit and the revenge, then you wound up just cutting the entire team. So in this case, I didn't have Verd built, so I did what I could with what I had, and as you were able to see in the background there, things went much better. So in this final fight, I wound up taking second pick. He had first pick, and he did not take the Lauren. So that told me that he's probably committed to trying to work on this comp as it is, and I rolled the dice and didn't draft the Lauren because she did not really fit well in my team. Because he brought the Triton, again, I went double fire monster, Vanessa and Oki, same logic as before. He comes back with the Hyenas and the Izaria. So this time, since I don't have to bring the Lauren, I'm able to change my comp up a little bit. And I bring in a second speed lead to see if there's a chance that I can outspeed him. The only thing I know for sure that I have no chance to outspeed is his Lauren. I don't know the speeds of the other monsters, and he hasn't let me have a speed lead either of the last two fights, so I don't know that if with a speed lead, maybe I can get in front of him. So I bring the Mina, who is not crazy fast for me. Mine's actually attack crit damage attack. She's still really fast, but not like the super, she's not a 300 speed monster for me. But she's a threat because he doesn't know how fast my Mina is. So what I'm hoping is to kind of draw him into banning the Mina and then leaving in possibly the Ciara. Or if he still bans the Vanessa, then at least my Mina is going to be a huge damage dealer, gives me a chance to kill his Izaria one shot, or gives me a chance to do some damage to his Hyenas and his Ashubal, and of course she has attack bar reduction and stun. So she's, for me, like a good test here. And then I'm also thinking he might still bring in that Daphnis, and I know my Mina can one-shot that Daphnis. So this gives me a lot more damage threats than I had in my previous fight. And again, all of my all of my monsters here have will runes. So it also gives me a little bit of backup protection if I wind up banning one of his strippers, depending on his final two picks. If I ban the Hyenas, for example, Then I've got fire monsters to counter the Triton strip, and I've got a chance for just a random resist on the other monsters. He comes back with a Shubal, and he finishes with a Kia. So the Ashubal is part of his normal comp. This time he's changed the Daphnis for a Kia. So if you have not built a Kia yet since the buff, let me tell you, don't do it. She sucks. I built her the day before the buff, and I was so excited because I don't have Zyros, and I was like, oh, budget Zyros, yes, yes. And her skill 2 looks so amazing because it strips and it adds glancing and defense break. I mean, she's not the worst monster ever, you know, but she just doesn't work as well as you would hope she does. Her attack multipliers are a little bit lower than Zyros. She's got this phenomenal base speed, which is awesome, but it actually makes her kind of hard to speed tune because you really still need to put her with a stripper. And so I shouldn't say it's hard that she's hard to speed tune. It's hard to take advantage of, because if you're putting her with, like, let's say you want to run her with Tiana. Well, you're going to be limited by Tiana's speed. Yeah, Akia is much faster, but you can't build her to be your fastest monster because she doesn't have an AoE strip. So you're going to wind up putting her in just a different kind of build. Maybe you can go attack, crit damage, attack, and make her fast, for example. But you can't benefit as much from that base speed. And then because her multipliers are lower than like a Zyros, you don't benefit as much from attack, crit damage, attack. So it just doesn't kind of fit. And then her skill 2 is basically a dead skill. It looks awesome on paper until you realize that she actually has to strip 3 buffs before she gets to land a defense break. And if there's no buffs, then the skill 2 is completely useless. So she's, and most of the time, the types of comps you'd put her in, like, again, if you want to run her with Tiana. If Tiana's already stripped, then there's nothing left to strip. And if you don't kill everything with a Kia, then you're probably going to lose that fight anyway, so why did you need that skill 2? At the same time, if you run her without Tiana, then make her your fastest monster, then all she can ever really do is strip the 1 buff, which is the will runes, and then all you're doing is adding glancing. So it just doesn't fit together. It looks awesome, but it just doesn't fit. Now, can you win fights with her? Sure, absolutely. Is she a good monster? Yeah, I'm not saying she's like total garbage, but she's just not as good as it seemed like she was going to be. Her skills just don't work together. They don't synergize as well as you would have hoped. So anyway, with that said, this is not a critique on Perk. These fights were actually filmed like the day of the Akia buff, and we were all running out and building her and testing her, so he wanted to test her here, which made a lot of sense at that time. And of course, I've got no immunity, so she actually looks like a very dangerous monster right here. And so I do bring in the Masha. At this point, not having immunity, I know that I'm going to have to target the Akia first, but I've got my Mina. And I don't really think he's going to ban the Mina. I actually still think he's probably going to ban the Vanessa because he doesn't want me to have that resurrect against his crowd control comp. So I decide to go ahead and ban the Izaria, which is going to allow me to use my Mina to try and kill the Akia if I'm able to. So he goes ahead and bans the Vanessa as expected. I ban the Izaria. We both take our speed leads, and I learn that obviously Triton is faster than Oki. I shouldn't say I learned. I knew his Triton was going to outspeed me. Once again, you'll notice right here, the fire build worked for me. I had the 1 glancing hit on Oki, so I was able to keep my will runes. Because Oki had will runes, his Hyenas was going to be forced to strip 1 down. Okay, so if you noticed in there, I did have 1 nice resistance with Mina, but it wasn't like crazy resistances here. So where really I had my biggest advantages were having attribute advantage working on my side, because he was forced to attack away from the Mina, and then the Mina was able to do a lot of damage. That kind of goes back to the pick ban phase again as well. Now I want to close out this video with one final thought. We just watched 3 fights between Perk and myself. Perk is, in my opinion, the stronger player. He's got better runes, he's got faster runes, he's got a deeper monster box. He was testing a very specific comp here. And part of the reason we test is to see how that comp does against a variety of different options that your opponents can throw against you. So I happen to have a comp built around double beast riders. I never had a chance to use my Barbara against him. She just never really fit in the comps that I was building. But I offered, you know, something different than maybe like I don't have Mo Long, I don't have Hathor, so I can't run those types of comps against him, but other people can. So he can test his comp against different people to see how it goes against different things that he may see in RTA. But when you analyze my matches with him, and this is the next thing he and I did. And this is the next thing he did. So if you look at the 3 matches between us, he won the first match because I banned Triton, or in part at least because I banned Triton instead of banning a bigger threat. Once we went through and we did the second and third fights, and after the first fight, I identified the true threat, or the true threat to me, which was Izaria, and banned her, I won the next 2. Would I win 100 out of 100? No. There's definitely enough RNG between violence and resistances. I might win 6 or 7 out of 10 in these 2 comps, but that's not where you want to be. You don't want to be on the downside of 6 or 7 out of 10. So then you ask yourself, why? Why is my comp losing? What countered me? And specifically in this case, what countered him was the attribute disadvantage of Triton against multiple fire monsters, which partially forced his hand on the bans and then gave me some advantages during the fight. Then the next step is to ask yourself, how do I correct that? So in the case of Perk, he's got ridiculously fast runes. He doesn't need his Triton at 300 whatever speed when he could use, for example, a Gemini at 10 speed or 12 speed less. The silence from Triton is really nice, but it's not essential. And his whole team is pretty fast, so he doesn't need that attack bar from Triton. But where he was struggling is he didn't have enough damage. In this last fight, or in the second fight rather, he couldn't kill my Oki fast enough until I made it through the crowd control. And he doesn't have enough damage because he doesn't have defense break. So Gemini offers defense break. It offers yet another speed lead, which turns Izaria into a flex pick because Izaria has occasional attribute disadvantage. And it just generally creates more flexibility in his team. Triton is a nat 5, he has better stats, he has a higher base speed. In a vacuum, you would think take the super fast nat 5, but for the team that Perk was building, Gemini wound up being a better fit. We ran several fights, he swapped the Triton runes over to Gemini, we ran several fights, and he just cleaned up against me. Once he had the Gemini in, it was like a devil's choice. You know, I either had to ban Izaria or Gemini, but either way I was in trouble. And then when he started working Lauren into that mix, it was like game over. So if you've got a comp that you feel should be performing better and it's not, look at the role that each monster plays in that comp and ask if one of the monsters is maybe performing its role, but not performing it as well as you expected it to do. And then ask yourselves what other monsters are alternatives. It doesn't always have to be about what's your best nat 5. We're trying in RTA, the goal in RTA is to build a team of 5 monsters that all synergize well no matter which monster gets banned. The best teams are the ones where it doesn't matter which monster gets banned. There shouldn't just be one monster where if they ban this, my whole team falls apart, but if they don't, I'm good. Because most of the time an intelligent RTA opponent will see that and ban it. Okay guys, that's it for this week's video. I hope you found it useful and helpful as always. I hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate any comments you have down below. Remember, Arena Rush Hour live on Twitch, 9 o'clock server time, and we'll see you next time. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, please pop that subscribe button over on the left. It shows me that you enjoyed the video, but more importantly, it shows me that you found the information useful and hopefully it helped you in your gameplay. So here's the deal. You pop subscribe and I'll keep popping out content. Thanks guys.